My name is Dr. Jarrod Sadulski. With over 2 decades of federal law enforcement experience, I have engaged in many counter-human trafficking and counter-smuggling operations. I'm a retired commissioned officer in the Coast Guard with over 26 years of experience. I also have over 10 years of experience in local law enforcement. As a criminologist with a PhD in criminal justice, I frequently conduct in-country research in Central America, South America, Mexico, and the United States to gain a deeper understanding of the current trends in human trafficking. I have spoken to countless human trafficking victims to hear their stories, which I share in nationwide speaking events to create awareness of the devastation that occurs in the lives of human trafficking victims. As a researcher and through my experience in faith-based humanitarian work, I've interviewed former sex traffickers who are incarcerated in the United States and abroad. Some of these sex traffickers have provided detailed accounts of the inner workings of sex trafficking from the lens of a sex trafficker. What I have learned is beyond what is commonly reported in the news or known by most law enforcement. Through this research, I testified before the U.S. Congressional Committee on Homeland Security on November 14, 2023, about human trafficking at the southwest border. Since that time, I have served as a consultant for committees on both the congressional and Senate side of our government in an effort to share my most up-to-date research on human trafficking trends that impact the United States. I have provided training to governments in 3 different countries in the Americas on the most pressing issues in human trafficking, including federal law enforcement in the United States. I speak to audiences nationwide to combat human trafficking through training and awareness of how to recognize and mitigate human trafficking in our communities. I also speak about the threat of sextortion and what citizens can do to protect their loved ones from becoming a victim of human trafficking or extortion. Through my work, I have learned from former sex traffickers and victims on how victims are targeted. I've learned what traffickers look for in terms of vulnerabilities of their victims and how they target them. I've also learned what can be done to protect victims of human trafficking from being groomed. Speaking to former sex traffickers has led me to gain a deeper understanding of the psychology of a trafficker. This is important because it can be used to identify human traffickers and can help protect loved ones from someone who displays characteristics of a trafficker. I've also gained information about how human trafficking rings operate, how stash houses are used to facilitate human trafficking, and the coercion tactics traffickers use. Sextortion, which according to the FBI is one of the fastest growing online threats for teenagers, is another topic I've gained understanding on. This is an important topic for parents to understand because teenagers are taking their lives due to this crime. I've also learned specifics about the ways traffickers recruit victims via social media and other online platforms. Speaking to human trafficking victims, I've gained knowledge on what could have been done to prevent their exploitation, which can protect future victims of human trafficking. I am passionate about creating human trafficking awareness because it can save lives. The training I provide includes how to recognize human trafficking, what to do if it's suspected, and how to get involved in your community to protect the most vulnerable from being trafficked. I incorporate what I've learned from speaking to trafficking victims and former sex traffickers as part of this training. This brings real-world context to the training. I also provide training on sextortion. I explain how parents can protect teenagers from this crime. This includes strategies to protect children from predators on social media. I also discuss what to do if a loved one is a victim of sextortion. I also provide training on the psychology of a trafficker. This is important because understanding the psychology of a trafficker can help to identify human traffickers online and within the community. For more information, I can be reached through www.sadulski.com.